Good morning everyone, welcome to chessroots.com. Okay, today we're gonna learn a game played between Magnus Carlsen and Aronian. This was a Queen's Gambit decline and it was played in the year 2008 and it was a Grand Slam final. Okay, here Carlsen is white, Aronian is black. d4, d5, c4, c6. The game started with a slave defense and later converted into Queen's Gambit. Knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, e6, e3. Here in Queen's Gambit, black will capture this dc4 only when bishop d3 is developed. This is done because black will gain a tempo when white develops a bishop and then later opens up with b5, a6 and bishop b7, later c5. So he waited for a move with nbd7, bishop d3, now d into c4. After bishop into c4, b5, bishop b3. Now here after b5, white will have two options like bishop b3 and bishop d3. Both the options will have a very fair game, and most of the well good players will continue with bishop b3 and bishop d3. Bishop d3, the game will continue like if bishop b3, then a6, bishop b7, black will play c5, where white tries to play e4 or d5 after c5. So here Carlsen played bishop d3. Now he will, after b4, white will play knight e4 and tries to create a weakness in the queen side of black. So bishop b7. Now black will play a6, c5 or even b4 in some conditions. So Carlsen doesn't want to allow this variation. So after a6, b5, we cannot play e4 because if b4 will come and this pawn will be hanging on e4. So Carlsen played a3, a sideline which most of the top players used to play. So after a3, instead of a3, if he castles, then black can play a6, e4, c5, d5 and c4, bishop c2, queen c7, d6, fe6, knight d4, knight c5, and this position will continue and it will be a very complicated game. For example, like bishop e3, e5 and knight f5. This position is complicated. One should say this position is pretty unclear. So Carlsen continued with a3. Now Aronian played b4. After b4, he played knight e4. If he played a b4, that will be an equal line. After bishop b4, castles, c5, knight a2, a5, knight b4, a b4, and this position looks like a very equal position. So knight e4, bishop e4 and ba3. Now Carlsen gave a pawn sacrifice in this main line Now white, if it capture with b into a3, then bishop d6, knight d2, queen c7, knight c4, bishop e7 cancels, and this position looks like a small advantage due to the weakness of c6 and bishop b7. Now maybe black can immediately play c5, or so rook b1 not allowing to play c5, rook b8, and this position likely seems to be a small advantage for white. So after castles, knight f6, he played bishop d3, a b2, bishop b2. So white have given a pawn sacrifice to open the lines of his bishop, and Aronian played a5, trying to fix this bishop on b4, and later he can play c5 and activate his pieces. So here Carlsen played a very good novelty which was never played before. He sacrificed one more pawn to open up his bishops. He played d5, a very interesting and a strong novelty. Now the bishop on b2 had the diagonals of both the bishops have been opened so if he captures with c into d5, that will be a mistake with bishop b5 check, knight d7, knight e5, bishop c8, rook c1, with the idea of rook into c8 and knight into d7. So he took with knight into d5. Now he played knight e5. Now white is threatening to play queen h5 and attack this f7. If he plays g7, then even knight g6 is also possible. So Aronian doesn't like to allow queen h5, so he played knight f6 and queen a4. Now I think this position is white is having a fair good chances of counterplay, even he is down with 2 pawns. Bishop b4 and knight c6. Now black cannot take queen into d3, which will be a blunder after knight e5 check, and queen is lost. So bishop into c6 is a forced move, queen c6, and then king e7. If you played queen d7, it will be a big mistake after even bishop b5, and you cannot castle. Directly queen d7 is not possible, queen into 8 is hanging. So if you played knight d7, then rook fd1, I think this position is very clear for white. After rook c8, queen a4, if he castles, bishop b5, if he castles, then bishop b5, rook c7, and rook into d7 loses the piece. So there is no way that black can do castling. So and after knight d7, rook fd1 with a clear advantage. So he played king e7 and rook fd1. Now white got his pawn back and he is now full under control. He played rook c8, queen f3, not allowing black to develop this rook on h8. So after queen b6, bishop d4, queen b8. Now black is trying to free this rook, but to do that he needs to support this knight on f6. So I think here Carlsen played bishop a6, a very interesting and a good move. Now he is threatening to um, cut down the rook movements and trying to play bishop b7 and controls the knight movement to d5, which I think is not that much important, but still the only counter defense stance from black. So he played rook cd8 and bishop c7. Now Aronian played h5 with the idea of knight g4, maybe of knight g4, and start to attack with h4. So Carlsen played h3. Here Aronian played h4. I think this is a mistake because rook cannot be activated from h5 to d5. There is no way that rook can activate it from h5, because after bishop f6, rook queen to h5 will be under hanging. So h5, I think h4 is a mistake, and there is no way of black can play knight h5 and go anywhere. So there is no point of playing h4. I think in this position black would have played e5, at least to equalize the position. Okay, so after h5, rook kb1, then e5. Now he missed a move, rook into b4. Now I think black could have tried ed4 and rook into b4, can still try to hold this position, but he blundered with ab4, and after bishop c5 check, king e6 is the only move, and rook a1 with a clear advantage. Now he's threatening rook a6, and soon the king will be getting checkmated. So he gave the rook back, rook d6, bishop d6, king d6, queen c6 check, king e7, and rook a8 wins the rook. Here he played in the time trouble queen d6, and king d6, rook a8. Now his last try is to make this queen. b3, bishop a6, n d7, rook h4, and n c5. Here he can play bishop c4 or bishop e2. So this is a good game played between Carlsen and Aronian. I hope you enjoy the game. See you in the next class.